Hi everybody, hopefully you can all see me and hear me okay from wherever you are in the world. So my name's Steve Taylor and welcome to my monthly meditation. This is the first in a series of monthly meditations which I'm going to be running over the next few months on different topics, and every topic that we look into is related to spiritual awakening in some way. So we're going to look into different aspects of spiritual awakening, and we're going to include some poetic reflections, mainly from my book The Calm Center, but also some new poetic reflections. And I'm going to lead you through some exercises based on different aspects of spiritual awakening and related to the poetic reflections which I'm going to read. And in the first session, we're going to look into becoming present. And I think that being in the present, being in the now, living in the present, living the now, this is one of the most important aspects of spiritual awakening, maybe the most important aspect of spiritual awakening. You certainly can't be spiritually awakened unless you live in the present. And if you don't live in the present, then it's a sure sign that you are not spiritually awakened. And if you pursue a path of gradual spiritual awakening over years or decades through following techniques like meditation or yoga or service and so forth, then you'll find yourself gradually becoming more capable of living in the present. So in this session, we're going to look into some of the reasons why we don't live in the present, some of the strategies that human beings use to escape from the present, and conversely, we're going to look into some strategies of living in the present. But I'd like to begin with a poetic piece. And because today is Sunday, and Sunday is traditionally the day of rest, and Sunday should really be a day of being. Sunday is a day when we step off the treadmill of activity, the treadmill of doing, and we should begin to experience some stillness and some degree of being on a Sunday. So this is a poetic piece I sometimes read at the beginning of retreats or workshops. And sometimes I read it to myself, particularly on Sundays or any other day when I have some free time and I know that I'm going to spend some time being instead of doing. So this is a very simple piece called Today. And it expresses what we're going to hopefully achieve during this session and hopefully during this whole day. Today is a day for healing. Not for striving or achievement, not for confrontation or conflict, not for pleasure or diversion. Today is a day for healing. Today is a day for retreat, a day for regeneration, a day for reconnection, a day to slow down, step back and observe. Today is a day for retreat. Today is a day for being. Today, there is no future or past, only the present. Today there is no becoming. Today there is no doing, wanting, or gaining. Today is a day for being. In some ways, I think it's ironic that human beings are called human beings because we spend typically very little of our lives being. We could be called human doings, maybe that would be more appropriate. Maybe human wantings, human havings. But human beings is not really appropriate because most of us find it very difficult to be. I think there are some good reasons why many people find it difficult to be and spend their lives doing and having and wanting rather than being. And one way of looking into this is to focus on what I call the 3 A's. This is a concept I used in my book, Back to Sanity. And the idea of the 3 A's is that there are 3 basic states in which we human beings spend our lives. And we spend our lives shifting or switching from one of these states to the next. Sometimes we have combinations of them, but usually they are distinct states. And the first A is abstraction. So we spend a lot of our lives in a state of abstraction. And that means that our attention is immersed in thoughts inside our heads. It's immersed in memories of the past, imaginations of the future, daydreams of alternate realities. But it's immersed in abstract worlds which are basically unreal, illusory, abstract worlds. And the second A is absorption. So we spend a lot of our lives in a state of absorption. And that could mean when we do our jobs, we give our attention to the tasks of our jobs. And we spend several hours a day absorbed in the tasks of our jobs. Or it could mean when we have free time, we give our attention to computers, to magazines, and we immerse our attention and we become absorbed in external distractions and diversions. So I think you'd agree that human beings typically spend a lot of our time in states of absorption. And the third A is awareness. And awareness means living in a state of being. Awareness and being are equivalent states. So awareness means giving our full attention to our experience in the present moment. It means being fully alive to our experience, being fully aware of our surroundings, where we are right now, the buildings around us, the objects around us, the people around us, the natural phenomena around us. And also being aware of our own sensations, how we feel within our bodies, the sensations we're experiencing, and the impressions and perceptions we're taking in. So that's awareness, and I think you probably agree that most human beings don't spend a great deal of time in a state of awareness. In fact, you could think about that now in terms of your own life. In a typical day in your own life, think about how much time you spend in a state of abstraction, how much time you spend in a state of absorption, and how much time you spend in a state of awareness. So just think about that for a moment. Do you spend the most amount of time in abstraction, the most amount of time in absorption, or in awareness? Well, I've asked this question many times. I often ask it at workshops to my students at university. And people tend to agree that they spend the least amount of time in awareness. Usually people say they spend the most amount of time in absorption, then it's abstraction, maybe 50, 60%, sometimes 70% in absorption, maybe 20% abstraction, and usually only 5 or 10% in awareness. And that's a terrible shame because, as I said, awareness means being, and it means being fully alive. When we're not aware, when we're not fully aware of our experience, then in a sense we're not fully alive, because life only takes place in the present moment. So if we're not in the present moment, if we are in the future or the past or in some kind of alternate reality where we can satisfy our desires or envisage different scenarios, then we are not fully alive. So what we really need to do is to decrease the amount of time we spend in abstraction and absorption, and increase the amount of time we spend in awareness. And in a sense, that is a good description of spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening means increasing the amount of time you spend in awareness and decreasing the amount of time you spend in absorption or abstraction. And maybe at the highest level of spiritual awakening, maybe there a person spends all their time in a state of awareness. At least, sometimes they may need to spend time in abstraction or absorption, because abstraction is sometimes necessary when we need to think and make decisions, or we need to make plans and organize our lives. And obviously sometimes absorption is necessary and sometimes beneficial. If you need to complete tasks, if you need to write a book, you need to be absorbed. But otherwise, except when they need to focus on abstraction and absorption, spiritually awakened people live in a state of pure awareness. So how can we do that? I think the best way to begin is to think about the ways in which we escape the present, the ways in which we escape into elsewhereness. I think most of us, perhaps unconsciously, have strategies that we use to escape from the present. And one of those is obsessive thought chatter, continually thinking about your experience rather than actually experiencing it. Many of us have a running commentary of chatter that kind of goes on continually as we live our lives. Another one is looking forward. A lot of us, rather than living the present, we obsessively look forward to the future. We have plans, we have ambitions, we have events that we're looking forward to. We have holidays or vacations or weekends that we're looking forward to. And we focus so much on those things that we forget to live in the present. Another one could be rushing. Rushing is a strategy of avoiding the present. So when you rush, you're actually rushing into the future. You're rushing away from the present and into the future. Rushing means saying no to the present. It means rejecting the present and literally running away from it. And obviously sometimes we have to rush. Sometimes we are late. Sometimes we have appointments that we need to keep. But often rushing becomes habitual. It becomes a habit pattern. So rather than rushing, we need to slow down and reorientate ourselves in the present. To some extent, becoming present does mean slowing down into the present and becoming one with your experience in the present. So while you rush, you can't be at one with your experience. You can only be separate from your experience. And another strategy which people use to escape the present. So again, you can reflect on this. Think about whether this is a strategy that you use. Another strategy is unnecessary or habitual activity. A lot of people fill their lives with jobs or tasks that don't really need to be done, just to fill the empty space of their lives. If they have free time, they feel uneasy if it's empty, so they fill it with unnecessary activities. Maybe cleaning the house even though it doesn't need to be cleaned. Maybe working more hours than they need to, just because they don't want to face up to the present. And another strategy of escaping the present, the last one I'll mention now, is living in the past. Some people, they obsessively recall past events, maybe embarrassments or humiliations or failures from the past, things that they feel guilty about, that they feel resentful about. And memories of these events continually plague their minds, fill them with negative feelings, feelings of guilt or bitterness. And it becomes habitual. Just as some people look forward to the future, some people obsessively recall the past. So I think it's helpful if you can identify those strategies in your own life. Then once you become aware of something, once you become aware of habitual patterns, that's the first step towards overcoming them. In fact, by becoming aware of them, you've already begun to overcome them. So that awareness is very important. But what can we do if we become aware that we're not living in the present? If we become aware that we are in a state of abstraction or absorption, or if we become aware that we are rushing or looking forward to the future obsessively or recalling the past obsessively, what can we do to bring ourselves back to the present? Well, now I'm going to read a poem which, in a way, it teaches us what we can do to return to the present. So this is called the alchemy of attention. And it describes what actually happens when we return to the present and how our experience of our surroundings can change when we become present. This is from my book, The Calm Center. It's called The Alchemy of Attention. When a mist of multiplying thoughts fills your mind, associations spinning endlessly, images jostling and memories whirling, free-falling through your inner space, you can always bring yourself back to now. This morning, making breakfast for the kids, I catch myself daydreaming and with a gentle mental nudge, remind myself of where I am. And straight away, the kitchen clutter turns to spacious presence. A mosaic of sunlit squares across the floor, fading and brightening with the passing clouds. The metal rims of stools firing sparks. Steam curls floating over cups, reflecting silver spoons. The perfect stillness of spilt coffee grains. The gaudy yellow and blue of detergent bottles. And the window smudges exposed by sun. Everything perfectly still and real. Everything perfectly itself. Attention is an alchemy that turns dullness to beauty and anxiety to ease. So that's the alchemy of attention. And that's the key to awareness, is attention. Attention is the key to awareness. And one of the most important phrases in that poem is the gentle mental nudge. So when you feel that you've become away, when you've turned away from the present, when you become caught up in abstraction or absorption, then all you need to do is give yourself a gentle mental nudge and return your attention to the present moment. It's a bit like if any of you have had young children or have got young children. Sometimes if you're trying to walk in a straight direction with a young child, it's difficult because they veer off to the left or to the right, or they turn behind themselves, go backwards. So sometimes you need to gently pick them up and put them back on the path and gently lead them in the right direction. And it's the same with awareness. Sometimes you need to gently reorientate yourself in the present moment. Gently pick up your attention and bring it back into the present moment. Very gently, very softly, not too rigid, not too firm. Just gently reorientate yourself in the present moment. And when we do that, it's like becoming a child again. As the poem describes, the alchemy of attention is when we return ourselves to the present moment, and the world around us comes to life. It becomes much more real, much more beautiful and fascinating. All kinds of mundane things become interesting. We notice things we weren't aware of before. And it really is as if the world around us takes on a quality of isness. There's a new dimension of reality which seems to be added to things. So I'd like now to try a couple of exercises based on that practice, based on what I call the gentle mental nudge, and also based on the parallel with childhood experience. I think one of the reasons why children see the world in such an amazingly vivid way is because they don't see the world through concepts. They don't look at objects and see them in terms of a pre-existing concept in their minds. They just see objects in themselves as they truly are. So they don't look at a tree in terms of a concept, in terms of memories of previous trees that they've seen. They see trees as a non-verbal, non-conceptual phenomenon. In other words, they see trees as they are in themselves. And this means going beyond language too, because children, especially young children, have a very rudimentary sense of language, and they don't see the world in terms of language. They see the world again in terms of isness rather than linguistic labels. So in terms of food, they don't taste foods and have a pre-existing concept of what these foods are or what they taste like. Everything is new and real and fascinating to them. So just for a moment now, I'd like you to close your eyes. Let's close our eyes for a few moments. And just for a few moments, be aware of your breath. Be aware of how the air that you breathe in brushes against your nose as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Be aware of the chair that you're sitting on. Feel your feet against the ground beneath you. And just for a few moments, take some slow breaths and feel how with each breath the air brushes inside your nose as you breathe in and out. And you can feel how your stomach rises and falls as you breathe in and out. And feel the energy inside your body. See if you can feel the energy gently flowing through your whole body, down from your head into your arms and shoulders, down into your chest, down towards your waist, down into your legs, towards your feet, and your ankles. And now, just for a few moments, while our eyes are closed, we're going to give our attention to our feet. First of all, I'd like you to bring your attention to your ankles. Just be aware of both ankles at the same time. And bring your attention a bit lower now towards the heels of your feet. Just feel the energy at the heels of your feet. Rest your attention there for a few moments. And now, be aware of the soles of your feet. Feel the soles of your feet against the ground. Feel the skin of the soles of your feet against the ground. And now be aware of your toes. See if you can feel the toes of your feet, all 10 toes at the same time on each foot. See if you can feel each toe individually. And now, let's bring our attention to the sloping front of each foot. Feel the top of your feet as they slope up from your toes back toward your ankles. Just feel the upper side of your feet as they slope up towards your ankles. Maybe you can feel an energy softly vibrating inside each foot. And now, let's bring our attention back up towards your head. Up through your legs, up through your waist, through your stomach and chest, back up to your head. And in a few moments, we're going to open our eyes. And when we open our eyes, we're going to look at the world around us in a different way. We're going to forget concepts and labels and language. We're going to see the world around us through the eyes of young children, as if we are young children. We're going to go back to the age of 4 or 5 and see the world without any labels or concepts, just in terms of pure isness. We're going to see everything around us as they are, all the things around us as they are in themselves, without concepts or labels, in pure isness, with pure, non-automatic, unfamiliar vision. So I'm going to count to 3, and after 3 we're going to open our eyes, and as I say, we're going to look at a new world with pure attention and pure awareness. So 1, 2, 3. Let's open our eyes and have a look around you at this strange place that you're in. All of these strange phenomena all around you, these strange objects. And just see them in their isness, without any concepts or labels, with pure attention. Have a look at your hand. Let's look at our hands for a few moments. Let's forget the word hand. What are these strange phenomena in front of my eyes? This strange thing with 5 protuberances or tentacles sticking out. All of these lines and wrinkles. Hundreds of wrinkles, sloping and intersecting. Just look at this strange thing as if you've never seen it before, through the eyes of a young child. What is this strange thing? I can turn it round. I can see these strange channels underneath them, below the skin, blue channels. And what we're going to do now is we're going to switch to different senses. We've started with seeing, so let's do that a little bit longer. Let's just gently survey the objects around us, looking at them through the eyes of young children with pure attention. And if you feel that your attention is drifting into abstraction again, then just gently bring it back into the present. Give yourself a gentle mental nudge and reorientate yourself in your present experience with a gentle mental nudge. But now let's switch to listening. Let's give our whole attention to the sounds around us. Listen to them with pure attention. What can you hear inside this room? What can you hear outside this room? Again, if you drift into abstraction, just give yourself a gentle mental nudge. And now let's switch to smell. What can you smell around you in this room? Any faint smells? Any strong aromas? Just gently rest your attention on the experience of smelling. Now let's switch to touch. Let's touch some of the objects around you and just feel them as if you've never felt them before, very slowly and gently. Feel all of the textures of the objects around you, their surfaces, their edges, their shapes. And now, let's see if we can give our attention to all of those areas at the same time, so that's seeing, listening, smelling, touching, all at the same time. Can we bring those four senses together into one experience? Seeing, listening, smelling, touching, all at the same time. And just to finish that meditation, let's close our eyes again. And let's return our attention to our own being. And I want you to experience your own being as if you've never experienced it before. What is this strange energy that you can feel inside you, flowing through your body? What is this formless energy with a quality of well-being, which is gently vibrating inside your body, all the way down from your head, through your upper body, down to your waist, down through your legs, down into your feet, down towards your toes. Just for a few moments, let's rest within our awareness of this energy and forget every concept and every thought which we may have. Just allow them to fade away and just rest within this strange experience of the energy of your being. And now, let's slowly open our eyes again and bring this meditation to a close. But hopefully you will retain that fresh and intense perception of your surroundings. Ideally, we should be able to switch into that childlike, vivid perception at will, whenever we want to. It should always be there as a potential that we can switch into whenever we have the opportunity. And usually that means almost all of the time. Because although we sometimes have to be busy with abstraction or with absorption, most of our lives we are free to be. But the problem is that many of us make a subconscious choice not to be. We make a subconscious choice to give our attention to abstraction and absorption rather than awareness. We make a subconscious choice to be elsewhere rather than to be here. But hopefully you can remember to give yourself a gentle mental nudge back into the present whenever you become aware that you are not present. And remember those strategies of evading the present. So if you become aware of those strategies, then whenever you catch yourself using those strategies, again, you can bring your attention back into the present moment. And as I say, attention is awareness. As soon as you bring your attention back into the present, then you are in a state of awareness. And the really interesting thing is, as hopefully you experienced during that meditation, when we bring our attention back into the present, we have a new experience. We do experience that childlike vivid perception again. And that really comes from being free of thought. When we are free of thought, the world becomes a different place. So I'd like to end this session with a poem of mine from the Calm Center, which describes the experience of being free of thought. This is called A Moment Without Thought. And it's quite a meditative poem, so as I read it, you can, hopefully you'll experience some moments of stillness, and I'll leave some space within the poem to experience that stillness. A moment without thought. A moment without thought, and the background noise ceases, and I can suddenly hear the silence between sounds, the silence beneath sound, from which all sounds emerge like waves from the sea. A moment without thought, and the fog disperses, and the world is filled with translucent light, new dimensions of detail, and sharpness and colour and depth. A moment without thought, and these suburban streets are a pristine new world, like a garden glistening with dew, the moment after creation, as if a husk of familiarity has cracked and fallen away, leaving naked primal isness. A moment without thought, and I'm no longer standing separate, no longer an island but part of the sea, no longer a static centre but part of the flowing stream. A moment without thought. And the train has stopped between stations, and there was never any motion, never any track. Thought is neither alien nor unfamiliar, but a place where benevolence blows through the air, and soft shimmering energy fills every space, and sunlight is the translucent white light of spirit, the deepest, closest, warmest place, the ground where we are rooted. A moment without thought. So thank you everybody. Hopefully you are now experiencing some moments without thought. And hopefully when the session ends and as you move into the rest of your day, hopefully you'll spend that day in a state of being and in a state of awareness, giving full attention to all of your experience. And hopefully you'll experience the healing that comes with being. The healing that comes with being. So thank you very much, and hopefully I'll see you next month on the last Sunday of next month. These meditations are going to be on the last Sunday of each month. So hopefully I'll see you on the last Sunday of August, whenever that might be. So all best wishes and blessings, and hopefully we will communicate again. Thank you.